Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, why doesn't Mario use the internet? He's afraid of the browsers. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at my top 10 video games to board games. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at my top 10 video games to board games. Now, I just want to clarify here. Many of the video games I have not played. Of course, I played, obviously, all of the board games, but I have not played all of the video games, so I'm not basing this list on the IP or on the video game. I'm basing this list on the board game itself and what I like about the board game. And I got a lot of good ones here on this list, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, honorable mention is Atari's Missile Command. Now, I played Atari's Missile Command a few years ago, and this was a game that when I was a kid, I actually did play this video game quite a bit. Originally, I think the original theme was actually incoming nuclear missiles into cities, but Atari said, that's too dark, so they turned it into the science fiction version. But anyway, it really fun game where you're like programming missiles to attack other people's cities. But there was almost kind of a what do you call it, a prisoner's dilemma, because you're not sure if somebody's targeting you, and if they're targeting you and you don't target them, you can be screwed. Anyway, it was a pretty fun game of kind of bluff and double bluff. But now I want to go ahead and jump right into it. Now my number 10 is a game that I've never played the video game, but it was huge. It seemed like a few years ago it was everywhere. Kids were playing it, and it was just everywhere. And I got the board game, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, this just doesn't interest me. I'm not interested at all. And then I played it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually really fun. But this is Minecraft Builders and Biomes. This is from Ravensburger. And this was a very interesting game because you actually had a block of smaller blocks, and you try to like take the blocks off of there and build them on and place them on a board. And you're trying to kind of build up to certain levels and gain certain pathways you had to go to gain certain items and advantages during the game. But it surprised me because, again, this is one of my pleasant surprises in gaming. I was not expecting to like it. I ended up liking it a lot. I did end up give this one away. I gave it to Zach because his kids really like Minecraft and they were excited about it. So I gave it to Zach. But it's one I really did enjoy. But that is my number 10, Minecraft Builders and Biomes from Ravensburger. My number 9 is a game that I played. This is when I very first started reviewing games in print for a newspaper, and companies very first started sending me review copies. This was a game I had requested based purely on the theme, and this is Batman Arkham City Escape. And Batman Arkham City Escape is a game where you're Batman, you're like trying to get to one side of, you're trying to move through this like riot in Arkham City. And you're trying to get to one side, but you've got different gadgets that can, you got like grappling hooks that can move you back and forth, but your enemies are coming out, and it's a two-player game. One player is playing Batman, one player is playing the enemies. The enemies can come out of sewers or, out of various places, and they're coming at you and they're trying to stop you. And it's just kind of this one-man war who's got a lot of powers and strength, and you got all these like relatively weak enemies, but there's a lot of them. And so you're just trying to stop Batman to get to the other side. But it's really fun. It's a fairly simple game, and frankly, it's one that I'm surprised is still not out there in some form. I guess the video games aren't as powerful or as powerful as everywhere as they used to be, and they're great video games. I played all the Batman Arkham video games, loved them. And this was kind of a fun board game implementation of it. But anyway, that is Batman Arkham City Escape. That is my number 9. That was from Cryptozoic. My number 8 was another game from, it's a game from Fantasy Flight Games. And this is based on a game I was playing like in the early 90s on my computer. And this is Doom, the board game. Now, we all remember Doom. That was probably like the first real first-person shooter that caught on. And Doom was just a tremendous amount of fun, the video game. And when they implement it into board game form, it's kind of a dungeon crawler. It's you got great minis and great monsters. You've got kind of a what do you call that? A interchangeable board. You snap together the different pieces of the board to create that. But what was cool about this game, and I've seen it in a few games since, what was really cool about this is it had the initiative thing where you would put the various heroes that would go in, and you had like I think it was 4 heroes, and then one person was playing all the aliens. you would have this initiative deck where you would draw the initiative card and you didn't know who was going next. Was it going to be one of the heroes? Which one? And then you didn't know it might be the enemy. And so you never knew who was going next. You never knew how that was going to play out. It could be punishing, but it was a lot of fun. Brilliant design, fun mechanics, basic combat mechanics. You're leveling up, you're gaining more and more cards and what have you as the game progresses. Super fun. Really enjoyed it. This is Doom, the board game. That was from Fantasy Flight Games, my number 8. My number 7 is a game I never played the video game, and in fact, I didn't even know this was a video game until a friend of mine was telling me about it. I was down in Texas. My friend Matthias, he told me that he told me about it. He's the one who introduced me to this game, and I played it and fell in love with it. And this is Crusader Kings. Now I understand the video game is like really super complicated. The board game is not that complicated. There's a level of complexity there, but it's not that complicated. But the thing I love about the board game is you've got this really cool system with these event cards where you would draw these event cards and you would do things that would affect you, but the event cards would have text that would follow, like the person just after you, or sometimes other players. It would affect them, and it would be like, you know, you have a family, right? You're building a family, and you have heirs, and you know, you have to make sure you have heirs for your family to go on. But you would, you know, so it takes time to get a wife and to get things rolling here, and somebody would draw a card that said, you know, your wife has an accident and she's broken her neck and she's dead. And it's like, I gotta reinvest in building a family again. But it was a fun mechanic. It was interesting, but it was a kind of a dudes on the map game too. You got various armies around Europe that you're moving around. You can go on crusades and go and fight in crusades. Really fun, medieval, Middle Ages kind of history, but you could tell the mechanics here were really well done, really thought out, and I'm told it was very much a dumbed down version of the video game. Dumbed down. I mean, you have to dumb down a video game to a board game, right? And that sounds so pejorative, dumbed down, but you have to make it less complex, right? But they said it still had the DNA from the video game. Anyway, that is number 7. That is Crusader Kings from Free League. My number 6 is another game from Fantasy Flight Games. This was one that came out 2016, early 2016. It's a game that I had never played the video game before. And I still get people giving me crap because I've never played it. But this is XCOM the board game. Now, XCOM the board game is quite a bit different from the video game because here in XCOM the board game, it is app-driven, but you've got different roles. You've got like the intelligence guy, the commander, you've got the soldier, you've got the scientist, and you're each playing like these mini games. And what's cool is you hit the app, and the app gives everybody your time. It gives them each something they've got to do. So you hurry and you fulfill it, and then you hurry and fulfill your part of it, and then you do it. And then once the app timer is done, then you go back and you look and you see, okay, wait a second. We did this right, we didn't do this right, and it costs you money. And when you can't pay for things, there are penalties, and the aliens are advancing. And it's just really tremendous fun. I think it's an Eric Lang design, but I really enjoyed XCOM the board game. Again, tremendous fun. That is my number 6. That was from Fantasy Flight Games. My number 5 is, again, a game from Fantasy Flight Games, and the video game it is based on is one of my favorite video games of all time. In fact, I think over the various iterations of this game over the years, you could probably say I probably spent more time playing this video game than any other video game, and that is Civilization: A New Dawn. Now, Civilization: A New Dawn, again, dare I say it, dumbs down the video game. Simplifies. There we go, that's a better word. It simplifies the video game. But it does it in such an interesting way. And the really cool thing about this is, of course, you've got a map, but you've got this bar for your cards. And you have these like simple, like early civilization cards, but where they are on the bar determines how powerful they are. So they're moving along, and then you take it from there and you put it there, which now you can do it again, but it's a lot less powerful. You want to wait till your cards get up there. So it's this balancing act between doing what you want to do and having to wait until the point where it's powerful enough to really use it. So that's a great mechanic. And then, as much as I like the base game, the expansion makes it 20 times better. This is a case of an essential expansion, Terra Incognita. You really need that expansion. It gives you another space on the bar. It gives you more cards. It gives you more characters. There's Fog of Exploration. A lot of other cool things that you get with the expansion, so I highly recommend getting that too. But tremendously fun game and great implementation of the video game. Now, I never played the other earlier Fantasy Flight Civilization. I heard that was great, but I heard it take forever. And this Civilization game takes under 3 hours to play. Really enjoyed Civilization: A New Dawn. That is my number 5. That's from Fantasy Flight Games. My number 4 is a game, again, I've never played the video game. It's one I've kind of always wanted to, just never got around to it. And it just came out this year, and it blew me away. Just played it actually the first time a few months ago. All my friends who've played it have really enjoyed it. Great hidden movement game. This is Sniper Elite. Sniper Elite, it's a David Thompson design. And it is this great game where you're the sniper and you've infiltrated a German facility in World War II, and you're moving along in secret. You know, you're riding on a dry erase board, and the Germans are trying to find you. They're trying to take actions to find you, but you have the opportunity to take a shot at the Germans and take them off the board. And you got a shot bag for this, and you reach into the bag and you're pulling out tokens. You want to get the shot tokens. You can get like a reload, which will screw you, or a recoil. You got all these things that can screw you over, but you're trying to do that. Brilliant game, very fun game. Again, I don't know how well it matches up with the video game, but a fantastic board game. One of my best games of this year so far. So that is Sniper Elite. That is my number 4, and that's from Rebellion Unplugged. All right, my number 3 is a game that just came out, I think, in 2020. 2020, 2021. Maybe it was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. And because I remember I played it for the first time before I moved up here to Wyoming. But this game, I played years ago. I played the video game. Played it a little bit, but I really, really liked the video game. And then I played the board game, and instantly it's one of my favorite games with this theme, which is a World War II theme. This is Company of Heroes from Bad Crow Games. This game is awesome. Now, I was a huge fan of Tide of Iron, and I kind of feel like this game kind of killed Tide of Iron for me. But you've got it's a great production. You got great looking minis. You've got great tiles. You got great, components and cards, and you get the terrain packs and stuff, and it just looks beautiful. This game just looks beautiful, but it plays like a dream. It's so much fun. You're shooting at each other. You're rolling. It's a dice chucker. You've got line of sight rules and what have you. But generally, you're trying to capture flags. But what's cool is kind of like the video game. You're leveling up by you have a round where, depending on if you've conquered a ammo flag or a fuel flag, you're getting these different components on a board, which then you can spend for upgrades. You can bring more units onto the board, or you can become more powerful. You're gaining experience, so you can do more things. It's really a lot of fun. I remember I played a game with Zach, and I was kicking his butt, but he started to push back just right toward the end of the game. And then he had leveled himself up with paratroopers, and he was able to drop paratroopers and capture one of my flags and won the game. And it was brilliant. So much fun. There's so much variety and sugar and spice in this game. It's a great World War II game that is on one hand, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but on the other hand, it really packs a punch. It's just so much fun. By taking itself seriously, I mean it's not slavishly devoted to wargaming rules. It feels like it's a much more gamer-friendly war game. And I really, really like it. This is one of the all-time great World War II games, in my opinion. Love it. I recently backed. They just did the second edition. I backed for the Veterans Pack for that. Super excited when that comes out next year. That's going to be great. But that is Company of Heroes. That's from Bad Crow Games, and that is my number 3. Okay, my number 2. Now, my number 2 is based on a video game that I've never played or really know that much about, but everywhere I've seen they say, yeah, it's based on this game, it's based on this game. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it's based on this game. And this is Space Empires 4X from GMT Games. Space Empires 4X was one of the very first games that I had a company send me when I was reviewing games. In fact, again, when I was reviewing it for the newspaper. But Space Empires 4X it's just that. It's a 4X game in space. You've got chits all over the board, and you're moving your fleets to the different locations to discover things. Now, what's cool here is all of your fleets, they're like face down, so you don't know exactly what's in that fleet. You don't know what kind of a ship it is. And it's kind of scary when these ships are coming at you because you don't know what they are. And some of them are decoys. Some of them aren't anything at all. but it's really cool. It's a really fun system. But what's fun here too is the exploration. You go, you can like you kind of have like the known space around you, which is going to have some advantages, and there may be a few little negative things here and there. But then you get in deep space, and you're going to encounter dangerous things, black holes, and all sorts of things that can really screw you up, can lose your ship or cost you in other ways. But at the same time, you're building an extensive empire, and you're building an economy, and you can build like space pipelines to bring resources from your planets back to your home planet. And your planets are growing, and they're becoming more powerful, and your ships, you can do ship upgrades to give them new technologies and make them more powerful. Really a great science fiction game, great space game. I played it at multiple player counts. I think I played it at every player count. It's 1 to 4. I think I played it at every player count now. And I got to tell you, hands down, 2 players is the best way to play it. I mean, it's fun at every player count, but to me, it really feels like a 2-player game. And even as it is a 4X game, it feels at its heart, it is a war game. It's got war game DNA in it. Really, really love Space Empires 4X. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. So that's Space Empires 4X from GMT, and that is my number 2. My number 1 game, it's funny because this is a game, the video game came out in like 97, 98. And I remember I had a computer that could like barely run it. And there's not that much going on. I mean, graphics-wise, it's really nothing special. But I played the crap out of this thing. And it's funny because I play a lot of different games these days. And a few years ago, I downloaded this, so I got it on my computer. And literally just the other day, I fired it up again. And I'm in the middle of a game of it right now because it's so much fun. I love the video game. When the board game came out, I wondered, it's got the same name. I wondered, is it based on the video game? And then I didn't hear anything. And then after a while, people, I saw people say, yes, it's heavily influenced by this game. So it is based on that game, I'm saying. But this is one of my, again, this is another top 10 game of all time for me. This is Star Wars Rebellion. Star Wars Rebellion from Fantasy Flight Games is Star Wars in a box, the OT in a box. It feels very much like you're playing through a Star Wars adventure, and you got the characters and they're going on missions, and it's just like the video game where you had space battles and spaceships, but really it was about the characters going to the different planets and performing different kinds of missions, sabotage missions or abduction missions or intelligence or what have you. And it's the same thing here with the game, but what's cool about the board game is it's asymmetrical. The Empire militarily can't be beat. It's too tough. So the rebels have to hide their base. So the Empire is like searching for the rebel base. But because the Empire is so much stronger than the rebels can't come out and fight them directly. They have to do these kind of pinprick missions. And that's kind of why they're sending the people out to do these sabotage missions and these other missions. That's gaining them reputation, getting more systems coming to their side. But critically, it is just this balancing act, this asymmetrical balancing act between the two players. So much fun. So much fun. I love this game so much. I don't play it nearly enough. I played it a couple of months ago. I had a friend of mine here in Wyoming who was moving, and he really wanted to play it before we leave, so we sat down and played a game of it. And it was one of those games, we kind of took our time. We were kind of talking and doing other things. So, I mean, we were at it like 4 or 5 hours. And it's not really that long. It's about a 3-hour game, but we were taking our time with it. And we just had a ball. We had a blast. It's so much fun. It feels, again, like you're making your own Star Wars story, your own Star Wars adventure. But anyway, that is Star Wars Rebellion. That is my number 1 video game to board game, and that is from Fantasy Flight Games. Well, thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me here on The Discriminating Gamer for this top 10 list. Please let me know, what do you think of the games on my list? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are there games that you think should be on this list that maybe I haven't played or I didn't like? But anyway, go ahead, leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys. I love to hear what your opinions are and your thoughts are on these games as well. Well, please check us out on social media, our Facebook page, Twitter, our website. Please leave comments there as well. And please check out my other channel, Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that as well. You know, I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, my girlfriend recently left me because of my gambling addiction. But I'm going to win her back.